Welcome back. You're still tuned in to Market View. Thank you for staying with us. During this year's Easter period, which was last weekend, Eswatini experienced a remarkable surge in tourism numbers, welcoming a total of 39.490 visitors, a significant 38.9% increase compared to the same period in 2024. According to new data from the Eswatini Tourism Authority, 17,225 international visitors entered the country, driven largely by strong demand from regional markets. To help us make sense of these numbers and what they mean for the economic future of tourism in Eswatini, Chunki Mdluli, Head of Marketing and Communications in the authority, joins us in studio. Chunki, very good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. Very remarkable numbers, I must say, indeed. So yes, we know that Easter season is a vital period for Eswatini, and we see that there's a surge. Tell us more about it.
Okay, Lou, thank you so much. I think you've just unpacked it. I think we're quite excited because our goal is basically to reach pre-COVID levels. But when we compare 2024 with 2025, we can see an increase of 38.9%. Although pre-COVID levels were sitting just slightly over 41,000 in terms of visitor numbers, we haven't reached the pre-COVID levels, but it's really promising because we're sitting at 39,490. So it's really promising. I think some of the initiatives that we do, the campaigns and push marketing factors, and also promoting the destination within Eswatini locally and nationally, is a contributing factor to Eswatini receiving the numbers. But as you have said, that we received a total of over 17,000 international visitors, and then the other 22,000 were actually Eswatini residing outside the kingdom. But they do contribute a lot in terms of day visits and also visiting destinations within Eswatini and actually spending, because it's more on visitor numbers, the spend, and the number of nights stayed in Eswatini.
Yeah, so it's not just visitors that are coming for the Easter services, it's also just people coming for leisure and social purposes.
Exactly. It's different reasons, because although Easter is more aligned to regional activities, we know people want to go to church, but there are those people that actually don't go to church. So we also need to make a provision for those, because people want to go out. For example, if you're working in South Africa for the longest time and you want to come home for Easter, definitely you're not going to stay in the house. So you want to go out and actually visit tourism sites within Eswatini. So that is why it accounted for over 22,000 Eswatini coming back home and actually spending more money on tourism establishments.
Yeah, speaking of tourism establishments, some Chunki, they were all booked this past Easter season. People were spending, they were dining, engaging in activities, visiting tourist attractions. What was the situation like?
We're quite excited because one of our key pillars and our targets to ensure that we increase the tourism spend and the spend in Eswatini, which means we need to increase the average length of stay from 1.3 nights to 3 nights. So when you look at the accommodation statistics, the hotel occupancy was actually sitting at 63%, accounting for hotel occupancy sitting at 62%, and then B&Bs, which is bed and breakfast, 54%, and then guest houses, they accounted for 44%, and then game and nature occupancy was sitting at 41%, which is really impressive, because sometimes there are those ups and downs, especially for Easter season. So we're quite happy with the room occupancy, which is 63%. When we compare to the previous year of 2024, we're just sitting at 55% room occupancy. So when you look at the sub-regions, for example, how the performance was in terms of the towns, Babani was leading by 71%, followed by Ezulwini and then Manzini 52%. So Babani took the lead, but it's always vis-a-vis. It's always Ezulwini, Babane, then Manzini. But this time around, more people were staying around Babane, followed by Ezulwini, then Manzini. So which is a good sign for us, because we don't want to regress and go back to the negatives, Lou. Although we haven't reached pre-COVID levels, but we're quite happy about the occupancy rate for this Easter season.
All right, so when I see the stats here, I see that South Africa sent 3,900 more visitors than last year. Was this by design, or it was a coincidence?
I think it's a coincidence because you can't really tell what's going to happen. Our responsibility is to market, but after marketing, then you will see the results after you've done the collection of the data. But South Africa, as we know, they are our neighboring countries. With Mozambique, they are also always leading in terms of source market visitations. So this year, when we compare to 2024, we actually received over 13,000 visitors. When we look at 2024, where we received 9.3. Same was like Mozambique, we received 1.5 for the Easter season. When we compare to 2024, we're just sitting at over 1.4. for. Although there are few markets, especially for the international markets, the Dutch are always leading. We also experience a lot of Dutch people coming from the Netherlands, which is over 112 visitations, and also the UK with 89, and also Malawi. Malawi is an emerging market.
Okay.
We have a lot of Malawians, and so strange because we don't do any promotions there, but you can see a lot of visitors coming from Malawi. But most of the time, it's mainly for business purposes, but they do also enjoy the leisure purposes as well. So I'm quite excited that Malawi is an emerging market for Eswatini.
Yeah, so I must commend the authority, Chunki. It's clear that you're doing exceptional work with marketing the country. How are you actually doing it? What's your strategy? I mean, if you are receiving tourists from the Dutch, Netherlands, Germany, Malawi, and so forth.
I think we're guided by the strategy. The strategy stipulates that we really need to do a push marketing factor. So we can't just do one and the same thing over and over again. And this year was so unique because we partnered with influencers, local influencers, content creators, because we understand that you can't just push the destination on our own as the tourism authority. But if you work with the content creators to push the content, because ours, we don't own any single product. Yeah. We work with the private sector, but the people that are going to actually lead the process of pushing the establishments and the tourism attraction sites, it's actually the influencers. So we worked with about 6 influencers, and the engagements, the reactions, the positive feedbacks, I think it was a positive for us. And we'll be actually scheduling the report next week and share with the media on how we perform, because for every campaign that you do, you need to measure it. Yeah. So you'll be able to see next week how we actually performed, but we can see the results. Emaswati actually want to go out and know more about their country, because we don't want Emaswati Lu to go outside the country, because if you go outside the country, Lu, you're taking Emalangeni into South Africa and Mozambique. We want you to stay within Eswatini, because if you do so, it's going to contribute to the tourism spend, which then gives us the tourism receipts that we're looking for. As you know, that by 2027, we should have recorded 2 million visitors, 2 billion receipts, and increase the average length of stay from 1.3 to 3 nights.
All right. So I recall that, I think it was this year or last year, we had 2 major accidents, I think, when you put a post. Was infrastructure ready for welcoming these tourists? And what lessons can we say we have learned from that?
I think that was just an eye-opener because we do sit in the stakeholder management forum with our SA counterparts, although the accident happened on the SA side, but it does affect somebody that wants to cross over to Eswatini. Actually, they were ready for the Easter. Everything was put in place. Hence, Ngwenya was leading in terms of the numbers, because it's a 24-hour border. So even if you want to travel at night, it makes sense for people. Even if you're from work, you can travel to Eswatini. So I think South Africa is working around the clock to ensure, with Eswatini, of course, to ensure that all entry points, not just Ngwenya, are safe for tourists, so that we can avoid future accidents. So we are hopeful that even going forward, they are going to put even more stricter measures, especially because we have an issue with the trucks coming into South Africa and then into Eswatini. Sometimes you find that there's a long queue. So it really does affect tourism, because somebody who is sitting and thinking, if I want to use the border post, is it really worth it? What about the accident that happened? So our role is to ensure that Eswatini is safe, in as much as you need to cross from the South African side, working hand in hand with the SA counterparts.
All right. So I see that most of these stats are more focused on international visitors coming into the country, but it has been a campaign that the authority has been running all along, promoting local domestic tourism, rather. Have Eswatini embraced the culture of visiting their own tourist attractions? What are the figures like for the Easter season?
It's really getting there. The 22,000 that was actually recorded for Emaswati coming back into the country constitutes Emaswati locally, because it's just a round figure. Okay. So we have seen Emaswati going out low. I think our campaign, because what we are trying to push is that we need to ensure that Emaswati visit their own. They are aware, because you can't visit if you're not aware. So the first thing that we need to do is to educate Emaswati. What is tourism? What does it mean to us as a nation and as tourism authority? Secondly, we need to change the mindset, because if the mindset is not changed, people are not going to wake up and visit. So the 22,000 accounts for the day visits. So day visits, we mean Lungelele will move from Babane and go to Mlaula and do a game drive and actually have food there, or Lu will go to Malolocha and do a canopito and have lunch there. So that accounts for the day visits. And when you look at the spend in terms of the day visits, constitutes for a larger portion of the receipts as opposed to accommodation, because you can go for accommodation and just sleep and not do any activities. But the day visits, which actually include Emaswati, have actually spiked, and we're quite excited excited about that because it helps us to build the receipts for the tourism GDP.
Okay, so lastly, Chunki, before I let you go, so what's the next big move for the authority or for Eswatini to stay in demand, not just on the map, but in demand?
It's events now, Lou. I'm glad you asked that question. We are going to Makoti Festival this coming weekend, and we are so excited that we're going to be receiving people from the neighboring countries, Lesotho, Botswana, Zambia, South Africa, Mozambique. So we're quite excited, and we want to say thank you so much to the Makoti Festival team because we've seen them doing media rounds actually in the neighboring countries. So it means a lot to us because when those people come into the country, they actually account for the visitations, and when they stay in hotels, they account for the accommodation, and when they spend, they actually account for the tourism spend. And Eswatini as well, because we know that Makoti attracts the domestic traveler who moves from wherever just to attend the events. Straightly from that, we are Lujo Festival, tickets are on, people are buying them, so now we have to prepare the outfits. Bushfire is coming, everything is sold out except for the Golden Lounge tickets are no longer available. So we are now pushing events, and we're also pushing the destination as a safe haven for the winter escape for the traveler that is looking for a destination around winter. So we are really pushing events.
Yes. All right, thank you so much, Chunki. That is the head of marketing at the Eswatini Tourism Authority, Chunki Lamine, just breaking down the statistics for the Easter season. We do know that it is a vital period for the Eswatini tourism. We go for an ad break. We come back with Sanel Espia for today's markets.